When you look at sports in the New River Valley section of Virginia, the one sport that quickly pops up is American football. The NRV is filled top to bottom with great high school rivalries and is home to one of the most recognizable college football programs in the country, Virginia Tech, whose Lane Stadium holds a capacity of just over 66,000 and has produced NFL stars such as Michael Vick, Cam Chancellor, and Hall of Famer Bruce Smith. Just 30 minutes down south, you'll find the small town of Radford, Virginia, home of former Virginia Governor John Dalton, Radford University, and Radford High School. The Radford High School Bobcats began playing football in 1921 and won back-to-back Virginia 2A state titles in 1971 and 1972, and recently made the 2A state semifinals this past year. Meanwhile, Radford University football dates back to 1910 and has never lost a game. Now, I could say something like, yeah, take that, Alabama. The only problem is that Radford University has never had a football team. This is something that has always perplexed me, that a Division I school located in a football-crazed section of Virginia doesn't have one. In fact, Radford University is one of only 97 NCAA Division I schools do not have a football program. There is a lot that goes into this issue, and I'm going to try to simplify it as best I can to hopefully come up with a conclusive answer. My name is Chris Gustafaro, and this is why Radford University doesn't have a football team. Now, before I go into the legal and financial factors of this issue, it's important to take a look at the history of Radford University and its athletic department to hopefully develop a base of understanding of the financial and legal factors that I'm going to get into later. Because without that base, can't enjoy that trouble. Sorry if you didn't get that reference, but anyway, let's get to the history. In 1910, Radford University began life as the State Normal Industrial School for Women at Radford, with the first class taking session in August of 1913. In 1921, the school participated in its first intercollegiate game as the basketball team took on Solons College, and would later go on to win the State Normal Basketball Championship that year. In 1924, the school changed its name to Radford State Teachers College, and in 1964, while still operating as a women's school, the name became Radford College. In 1972, the school started enrolling men and also welcomed its fourth president, Donald Dedman. 7 years later, in 1979, the school was granted university status and became Radford University. During Dedman's 22 years as president of Radford, the school's student population grew by at least 54%, and, on top of earning NCAA Division I status in 1983, introduced 8 athletic programs including men's basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, men's soccer, and both men's and women's golf and tennis teams. His legacy immortalized with the Dedman Center, built in 1981. Now, for me personally, it's interesting to see a school experience so much growth and not have a football team be a part of it. But according to former athletic director Greg Denny, having a program was the least of the school's concern, especially during their jump to Division I.
When we made the move from Division II to Division I think the primary focus was taking the sports we had at that time and moving them from Division II to Division I. That involved some additional resources, obviously, in order to meet Division I requirements, and so I think it was a challenge then just to meet those resources.
Even if the concern was on the school's existing programs and not on football, the lack of attention on the issue has caused many rumors to spread on why. I remember a friend of mine telling me that one of the reasons was that in November of 1970, during Dedman's 8-month stint as the interim president of Marshall University, a plane carrying 37 members of the Marshall football team, along with coaching staff and the school's athletic director, crashed, killing everyone on board in one of the most tragic incidents in college sports history. So when Dedman took the reins at Radford, only 2 years removed from the crash, he decided that he didn't want Radford to have a football team. Now, before I continue, I would like to state that I believe this to just be a myth and nothing else. As Denny had just explained, the administration of Radford at the time were clearly focused on other things. Also, considering the growth that the university ended up going under anyway, proves that you really don't need a football team to be successful. But even with all that growth, it's still a popular discussion amongst the student population on whether we should have one or not.
I would suggest probably no, simply because I think it would take a lot to get us behind a football team, considering we've always been people go to Tech or people support other football teams. So if we made one now, it would probably take a long time to get that fan base going, and it might be financially, it'd be financially bad, I think, maybe. And plus our school spirit isn't all that great right now, so I don't know.
I absolutely do. The high school I went to, we didn't really have a football team, and it puts a strain on the community and your school. And I think football teams and having a football team is one of the best way for a school to unite and come together and celebrate as one.
Radford's already a great place to be, a great institute. I just feel like adding to a football team, I think it'll just bring more admittance to the school, bring more recognition. You see that the basketball programs are doing well, baseball's doing well. I just feel like adding the football team would just add on to the greatness of Radford and making it an even better place than what it already is.
Yes, but I think it would take a really long time to build up the program, so I don't know if it'd be worth it.
I think it would be pretty cool if Radford decided to add a football team onto our varsity sports. I think it would provide opportunity for other clubs. For example, the fishing team is growing pretty fast. It'd be a good opportunity to kind of get more of an audience and help club sports grow at the same time. But with the Title IX stuff going on, it could get a little messy, but it would be kind of cool to see a football team here.
In case you don't know what Title IX is, that is Title IX of the Education Amendment of 1972, which states, quote, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance." In order to get a better understanding of what Title IX is, I've asked Dr. Tasha Martin, a sports administration professor at Radford University.
So Title IX is an interesting concept because when people think of it, they generally think of just sports, right? But Title IX is from the Civil Rights Act, right? And it's supposed to be applied to just all educational programs, right? So it's supposed to be equal rights and no discrimination against based on gender for classrooms and access to educational materials like textbooks and things. And sport as an educational kind of body kind of got thrown in at Title IX.
Dr. Martin also talked about the perception that Title IX gets in the media when a school has to cut an athletic program.
Yeah, so I think it's so funny when you see programs getting cut, right? And the first thing is blame Title IX. If a men's, for example, wrestling team gets cut, it's blame Title IX. It's Title IX's fault because, women need sports and we don't have enough women's sports. But honestly, it's football's fault, right? Because if you have a school, say like Radford, whose budget is, I think, $12 million, that $12 million budget, that money is coming from students, right? So students pay, added fees to their tuition, to support athletics. And so if you think about that and you add in a football team and how much that would increase student fees.
To put a $12 million budget into perspective, let me take you back to the 2015 year-end report for Radford University Intercollegiate Athletics, which reported that Radford University had spent close to $11.8 million on its athletic programs, with about $11.1 million of funding coming from student fees. Among the expenses includes a combined $2.4 million going towards both basketball programs and $4.8 million going towards the other athletic programs. About $862,000 went towards travel, and around $458,000 went towards equipment and other supplies. These expenses are most likely to go up with the addition of the football program. Also, according to current athletic director Robert Lindbergh, there are other financial factors to consider when trying to get a football program off the ground.
If we were to say, if the president and myself and the board decided one day that we're going to start football, we're going to start from scratch, first of all, there's got to be a facility infrastructure to support it. You might be able to retrofit Cup into some kind of a situation where it might work. But you're talking about, a significant overhaul to that, or building a new football stadium. You would need a football support area with locker rooms, strength and conditioning. 2.5 practice fields is kind of the minimum for football. And then you start talking about, now you got to build a coaching staff. I think they have a head coach and 9 assistant coaches. They have lots of graduate assistants. You're going to have a strength coach. You're going to have another sports information person. You're going to have academic people. So just the build out to start a football program, probably, we looked at it 5 or 6 years ago, probably $16 to $20 million right off the bat. Wow. So a huge price tag to start that, to get it off the ground.
Another thing to consider, according to Dr. Martin, are the opportunity costs of a football program.
I guess it's looking at like the opportunity cost of it, right? So is it worth the money that you're putting in? Football is, for lack of a better term, it's sexy. Like, people come to schools for football. That's kind of a pro of it, right? Football could be a good face of an athletic department, right? A good way for people to, say, hey, I'm at this school because I want to support the football team.
Do you think if Radford were still Division II, it'd be a little bit more manageable?
I mean, you're still into, D2 football. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what conference you would play in. Would you play in the West Virginia conference? I don't even know. I'm not sure how D2 really how well D2 works in today's world. We certainly would not want to take our other sports down to start football, because we enjoy being Division I, and just so many positives, and the opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament in Division I, play on big stages. It all helps our brand. I think as we look at football, and I've had discussions with my prior president, I've had discussions with our current president, we just don't see how we can make the numbers work in the current environment.
By the end of filming, I came to the conclusion that having a football program at Radford University was, and still is, not a good fit, both financially and legally. Now, don't get me wrong, having a football program would be awesome, but to even get good ground on starting a team is too daunting. It would involve increasing enrollment among men, increasing student fees, and also making room for a stadium, new locker rooms, and practice fields. Does this ultimately eliminate the prospect of having one? Well, no. If the university continues to grow at a steady rate over the next decade or two, there may be a chance, but that's up for the future to decide.